Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great honor to welcome you all here in Cairo, Egypt, in the regional workshop on green economy for poverty reduction and sustainable development. I think you would all agree with me that this is really an important event leading to the expert group meeting, which is going to take place in the next couple of days. Let me start off by inviting Mr. Monkiala Gumandakoya, who is the director, and I guess most of you know him, for the regional office, UNEP regional office for Africa, to make a brief introductory statements, and then we'll take it on from there.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Your Excellency, Dr. Khaled Fahmy, the Minister of State for Environmental Affairs, Excellency, the Ambassador James Moran, the head of the European Union delegation to the Arab Republic of Egypt, Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really delighted to join you here for this important pre-session of our African Ministerial Conference on Environment. But I would like, first and foremost, to thank the government of Egypt for this opportunity that is given to us to convene this workshop, and for all really the great assistance provided to make sure that we are in a very good working conditions for successful deliberations. But I think it is also, Your Excellency, an opportunity for the United Nations Environment Programme to really thank Egypt, because we know very well that the African Ministerial Conference of Environment started here in Egypt 30 years ago. So you are giving us really an opportunity to come back to Egypt and really make assessment in terms of what has been done since then. So this is, in fact, an opportunity for this green economy to also make an assessment of, indeed, what has changed during the past 30 years. And indeed, when we created AMCEN here in Cairo 30 years back, the population of this continent was about 500 million. Now we are 1 billion inhabitants. We are heading to 2 billion in 2050. And if we look at also the opportunities, in fact, at the time, the economic growth was rather sluggish. But now, since AMCEN, in fact, the GDP has tripled. This is indeed a continent with immense natural resources. As you know, in terms of, for example, renewable energy, this is the continent, in terms of solar energy, 325 days of sunshine. This is something that you cannot find anywhere, in fact, in this world. So the potential is huge, but at the same time, as I'm saying, green economy is important because we cannot continue business as usual. Just I'm quoting one study that has been conducted by WWF, which is saying that from 1961 to now, in fact, the African ecological footprint has increased by 240%. So it means, yes, we have potential, but we have always to think that we need to find ways in decoupling in terms of continuing the sustainable development path and finding, in fact, best ways to use the natural assets in line to increase the economic growth and sustain also the livelihood of the population. I would like really to take this opportunity to thank the European Union. In 2008, when UNEP started this initiative, particularly when the world was facing the crisis, not only financial, assess the progress made during the 5 past years. We used to say in UNEP that during the past 5 years, with the support for the European Union, we did what we call, in fact, the Green Economy 1.0. This workshop will give us an opportunity really to assess what's important, first, because the outcomes of your deliberation would feed into the main AMCEN sessions. We would like to see some of the clear recommendations from your session to see what kind of suggestion we can provide to the ministers so that economy partnership would like, through the recommendation and the analysis that we will be making from this session, to see how best we can move on. But we would like also to consider the important agenda on the post-2015. As you know, in fact, in September, the world will convene successful in terms of reducing poverty. How best we can make sure that this economic growth, particularly through the green economy, can be inclusive. The outcomes of this meeting, to see how we can think in terms of this financing for development for the post-2015. You know that in July, I would like to end, Your Excellency, by saying that, as you know, African Union has really decided through the head of states in terms of what future we want, because you have the Agenda 2063. If you look at what the African Development Bank is saying with regard to what we could project for 2060 for this African Union vision, this level of upper middle income status, that the development path that this country should take is really at a path which is sustainable. So our engagement in green economy can really shape the future of this continent. We have defined through the Rio +20 the world that we want. We have defined also on finance the sustainable development. So I think green economy provides us good opportunity in terms of how to do it best. I would like to end, Your Excellency, by saying that, as you know, African Union has really decided through the head of states in terms of what future we want, because you have the Agenda 2063. If you look at what the African Development Bank is saying with regard to what we could project for 2060 for this African Union vision, it says that most African countries will attain upper middle income status. But it is important that when the countries will really get to this level of upper middle income status, that the development path that this country should take is really at a path which is sustainable. So our engagement in green economy can really shape the future of this continent. We have defined through the Rio +20 the world that we want. We have defined also, in fact, through the African Union, the Africa we want. And what we want is Africa which is prosperous, which is peaceful, which is wealthier, healthier, and greener Africa. And I'm sure that the green economy will help us to keep in this pathway. Thank you, and I wish you good deliberation during this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gumundakoya. Actually, as you rightly mentioned, from Cairo and back to Cairo, we're all excited here as Egyptians and as partners in this initiative that we see how really green economy can provide an effective tool for making an effective transition to sustainable development, which is inclusive. Definitely, we need to share the wealth of this continent with the marginalized communities and make sure that equity is across the board and is really achieved. Let me move on to His Excellency, the Ambassador James Moran, Head of the European Union Delegation to the Arab Republic of Egypt. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Sabah al-Khair, bonjour to everyone, and real privilege to be here with Dr. Gumundakoya, and of course my dear friend, the Minister of the Environment, Khaled Fahmy, who has been so active on so many fronts here in Egypt, and I know around the continent. It's a real privilege to be with you today. We appreciate the invitation to join in your session this morning, coming from UNEP, with whom we have a very good working relationship. And of course, as was said, what you do here is very germane to what is going on in the African Ministerial Conference going on in this residential area and so on. And it's typical of so many cities around the continent. So the population challenge is with us, and it is creating serious concerns for the environment. It also, of course, has tremendous opportunities. In Europe, we have the opposite problem. Our population doesn't seem to be going very far any time. And the same applies to climate change, which is estimated to cost an additional 5%, according to the review done by Nicholas Stern a few years ago. On the other hand, it's estimated that measures that address and access new markets. The green economy, and I think I don't need to tell you this, but it's not something that's only for rich countries. Environmental degradation affects everyone, everywhere, and it is very threatening to poorer countries which lack resources to adapt and create resilience. Some of the more costly measures, perhaps, may not be affordable to all, but there are policies that don't require major investment and that can be adopted by many, such as the redirection of subsidies allocated to non-productive or polluting activities, or the promotion of sustainable farming methods. The current courageous move here in Egypt to reduce fossil fuel subsidies perhaps could be one example so far as that is concerned. In the European Union, we have a key objective in recent years, for example, to improve resource efficiency and reduce waste. And we do it to address the global environment degradation problem, but also for economic benefits. We estimate that a better use of resources could give us savings of 630 billion euros per year for European industry, and potentially boost our own GDP by up to almost 4% through the creation of new markets and products. And it's estimated that up to 20 million jobs could be created in Europe by 2020, our partners and friends around the world. So in line with these efforts being made at home, we also encourage efforts towards, in this direction, in our international relations. The Agenda for Change, the European Union's main development policy reference point, says that EU development policy should promote green economy that can generate growth, create jobs, and help reduce poverty. And the EU's commitment to promote green economy has been further enshrined after the Rio+20 conference of 2012. The Switch Africa Green Programme, the 19 million euro initiative there, which I know has had a pretty good series of outcomes, and we're hoping to multiply some of them. And not to forget also, we're working in North Africa with the Mediterranean countries, including Egypt, on the Switch Med programme, which is a 22 million euro programme. Environmental magazine, a political magazine, of course, which is concerned with international relations. And the importance of solar power is now becoming evident to everyone, not just the scientists and the research community. It's becoming a very real opportunity, and who is better placed to take advantage of that than Africa? How many days of sunshine, you said? 325 days? I wish you would export some of these days of sunshine to Europe. But there we are. Minister, I've gone on far too long, and I don't want to... I want to save more than enough time to hear you speak. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you today. I wish you a great workshop and a very, very good week ahead. And I'm sure you're doing it in just the right place. As you said, you started here. You won't finish here, but you'll definitely continue here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Actually, as you rightly mentioned, green economy is not just meant for or His Excellency now Dr. Khaled Fahmy, and I need not say much here except that actually he has been very instrumental in moving ahead with the green economy agenda and with initiatives dealing with integrating really environment in the different sectors. And this is really where we need to move forward. Environment, as we all know, cannot be dealt in isolation. It has to be part and parcel of sectoral and macroeconomic policies. And I have to, I'm not just saying this because he's sitting next to us here, but I have to acknowledge really his contribution towards moving ahead in this direction, and the fact that he did the Sustainable Development Unit in the Ministry of Environment is a testament or a testimony to the fact that he is really serious about moving ahead with this agenda. I haven't actually, my colleague Stephen Stone, who took over the Economics and Trade branch, where I used to also be involved in activities in this branch. Sitting next to me is the CEO for the EEAA, the Environment Agency, and of course we're all delighted to be all here supporting this initiative. Your Excellency, Dr. Khaled, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me welcome you all in Cairo. With all open arms, heart, we are welcoming you among us. Egypt is African, and we belong to Africa. We are very happy to have AMCEN back again in Cairo after 30 years. So welcome AMCEN, welcome Africa. Together we will work on very serious and challenging task that we have to work on together toward crystallizing our position. We have done far not so bad, but this is the final round and we have to prepare for it, and we welcome and we are honored that we will assume the presidentship of AMCEN, and be rest assured that we'll do Egypt a chance to be the president for the next coming years. His Excellency Ambassador James Morn, head of the European Union delegation to the Arab Republic of Egypt, thank you very much for being here. We look forward in extending the help of EU to all African countries to help us in greening our African economy. Dear Mr. Mukaila, Goodman, been doing over the last few decades. Thank you very much for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry of Interior, the Ministry of Information, the Ministry of Health, and all the other, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Tourism, Ministry of Aviation. Everybody was working very hard the last couple of months to work together and to get this conference well organized so that we can meet all your needs, all the African needs. Okay, let's go to the topic. I'm not a good reader of words. I have this problem because people keep preparing notes. Sometimes I prepare them myself. But guys, come on. Let's talk. We're talking from inspiration to action. Okay, so let's not talk much about inspiration. Much has been said about that. It's very right to have our inspiration for our countries. But yes, renewable energy. I'd rather say, do we need to do that? There is no economic growth and economic development without energy. So energy is a major topic. Renewable energy is our cornerstone when we talk about producer of energy. We are going to open the market so that private sector can produce energy. And then we have given in the feed-in tariff, which is a well-established instrument and has been used all over the world. We're introducing it for the first time, and it's proving to be very successful. We have reorganized the NAREA, which is the new and renewable energy agency, so that it becomes capable of establishing and going in partnership with private sector to establish renewable energy facilities and generation stations. We are looking to that. We're working on biomass, whether on biogas or on the reuse of agricultural wastes. That's causing us a lot of difficulty coming economic conferences in Sharm el-Sheikh in 2 weeks. We, as Dr. Hussein rightly said, we are introducing institutional changes in the ministry. We switch and talk into economic language. We are very well heard. When the EEAA, the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency, produces not only environmental assessment, but produces financial visibility study of big greening activities, they are very.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I think you touched or you hit the nail on the head when you mentioned that we need to talk the language of economists, we need to talk the language of ministries of trade, of industry, of agriculture. And if we keep on addressing the environment in isolation, and we've tried this for a long time, we don't go that far. We need really to definitely make the business and economic case for investing in the environment and human resources, which are really the real asset of this continent. The potential of this continent is huge. And there is a lot to be gained. And I think the opportunity now is we're on a critical moment. We cannot, as they say, miss the boat again. I mean, there was the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and now we have the green revolutions. So I think we have a great opportunity as a continent to move ahead and see how best we can use our resources, human and natural, to really get into the sustainable development wagon. Thank you for the three distinguished panelists for the opening remarks. I think that give us the inspiration to move ahead, and I like to thank them very much for their introductory statements, and I'd like to move immediately to the second session, which is going to be moderated by Mr. Goodman Koya. You have the floor and you have the leadership here, and I think we need to invite Mrs. Laila Mokaddam to the podium, and Mr. Tom Okorot, Executive Director, National Environment Management Authority of Uganda, Mrs. Esterine, Director, Program Implementation and Coordination Director.
Good morning again, distinguished participants. I would like just to check to see that indeed in terms of the panelists, we have everybody on board. Leila Mokaddam, the resident representative for Egypt, is there with the minister, who has already given us from his speech really some inspiration, but also really guidance for action. So this could be indeed many good elements that we need to take already into account in our discussions. We were expecting to have also Uganda. I understand we have Mr. Ronald Kagwa, the representative and principal environment economist of the National Environment Management Authority of Uganda. And then from NEPAD, I understand Estherine is not around, but is there the representative of NEPAD? Okay, good. Thank you. So thank you. This is the very first panel that we are going to have. And as I said, basically to help us provide the overall framework for our discussions today and tomorrow. And thank you, Your Excellency, really to have accepted to be with us for the few minutes to come for this discussion. We will have this discussion normally for 45 minutes. Is that correct? Yes, you can give some, in terms of the timing, are you making any adjustment or we consider the initial adjustment of?
Just at the press event at 10:15.
10:15. But
I can. My time is flexible.
okay.
My time is flexible,
So maybe we put it up to 10:30. Okay, just to ensure that we take into consideration also the planning, particularly the press event that is normally coming immediately after that for the launch of the Egypt Green Economy report, we are going to have this panel discussion up to 10:30. So we are going to be really as precise and as concise as possible during the discussions. So thank you. We would like to give the opportunity to the panelists to share with us the views and guidance on the number of issues that we think are at the core of this agenda on green economy in Africa. Particularly taking into account that this is now not something new for the continent. Many countries are already engaged actively in implementing green economy. We need now to see with regard to what are the lessons learned, where do we stand with regard to the green economy agenda and the progress made so far and the challenges ahead. And also considering the different regional initiatives, we know that we have, for example, the Partnership Action for Africa page. We have also other initiatives that have already mentioned by the representative of the EU, like Switch Africa Green, but many other initiatives also at country level. It will be good to see what kind of a really strategy approach could help the region move forward when it comes to a green economy. So I think we can indeed, based on that.
So here we go again. Okay. First of all, let me thank CIDARI, the Center for Environment and Development for the Arab region and Europe, for the partnership with the Ministry of Environment, United Nations Environment Programme, in producing this green economy scoping study. The study has focused on several sectors: agriculture, water, energy, and waste, and the possibility of green economy was investigated. And we can summarize the results in the following. When it comes to water, available fresh water per capita is expected to significantly diminish from 600 cubic meter a year to 350 by the year 2050. This is well below the water stress level of 500 cubic meter. If we invest in household water saving devices for domestic use, we will be able to reach savings of between 10 to 20%. Investing in water saving equipment and practice in the agriculture sector will enable us to save 40%, or about 23 billion cubic meter annually. Other benefits of water efficiency measures include increased agriculture yields, estimated at between 20 to 30% a year. If we move to better exercises in irrigation system, as said, we will be able to capture 40% of the losses in water, but at the same time, we will be able to increase and the costs of production and green economy investment in water efficiency. And we'll be able to, so we can do that through the replacement of pipelines and introduction of drip irrigation, which will contribute to saving water costs. Lesson learned is that yes, we are approaching a very problematic area in the use of water, but we do have the means, and they are economically justified. Investment in energy efficiency would result in increased energy independency and lower marginal cost. Energy efficiency measures in Egypt, such as the installation of efficient lighting equipment, are expected to save 30% of energy consumption, estimated at 33 billion kilowatt. In industry, energy saving is expected to save between another 20% of the total energy consumption. In Egypt, about 90% of national energy needs come from fossil fuels and natural gas, while the contribution of renewable energy is relatively minor. Investing in renewable energy can restore Egypt's energy security status while reducing CO2 emissions and the associated environmental and health impact. Achieving a renewable energy penetration target of 20% by 2020 would require the installation of 26.5 billion kilowatt of additional capacity. This is estimated to create about 21,000 jobs a year. These are just major issues to demonstrate what we can do in Egypt. I hope that in the coming session, as I expressed before, that we will get the chance to exchange experience in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We are going to use 15 minutes, I suggest up to 10-15, to hear from the other panelists, and then to give the opportunity for the remaining 15 minutes before 10:30 to hear also from the room, so that we can have a kind is giving us concrete cases in terms of how we can consider moving into this green economy development agenda in other countries. I would like to give the floor to the African Development Bank. The African Development Bank has been really a forefront in terms of one of the major partners in this continent in terms of green economy, and we are really happy to have them, because in terms of investment in this continent, it is important that even we green our investments for the development. So you have the floor. Yes,
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Dr. Khaled Fahmy, Minister of Environment of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Mr. Gomandayoke, Director and Regional Representative of United Nations Environment Program. Let me first, and on behalf of the President of the African Development Bank, Dr. Donald Kaberuka, thanking you for inviting the African Development Bank to participate in this very important workshop. And from seeing the sheer number of eminent green growth and green economy experts today, I'm certain that the outcomes of this workshop and this session in particular will contribute to propelling Africa towards a better development trajectory. As we all know, the African continent has experienced rapid growth over the last decade. However, this growth has been uneven across countries and sectors. Also, the economic base has remained narrow and has not generated enough jobs, as it has been said, particularly in the extractive industries. Promoting inclusive growth and building a green economy is about striking a balance between achieving the type of growth that ensures prosperity for African countries and population by enabling the transition to sustainable development pathways. Given its vast natural resources, wealth, biodiversity, and human capital, Africa could play an important role in addressing some of the world's challenges, particularly on food securities. While Africa's ecological footprint so far is low, it has increased by about 240% between 1961 and 2008 as a result of growing populations, as well as increased per capita consumption in a minority of countries. Likewise, Africa is currently a low emitter of greenhouse gases, but this is likely to increase significantly as Africa becomes more industrialized, unless we gradually transition to cleaner fuel processes, etc. This transition can happen only if African countries can maximize the benefit that can be generated from their natural resources in order to enhance livelihoods and minimize vulnerabilities while creating need growth opportunities. There is therefore an urgent need to scale up the development and sustainable management of Africa's natural resources to meet basic needs, a prerequisite to inclusive green growth. And for instance, and based on our experience in several countries, we have seen that this has been a success in, for instance, Ethiopia, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, and Mozambique, which these countries have demonstrated that transitioning to green growth can be a means to achieve sustainable development. Therefore, and in our own interest to move towards inclusive and green growth, which presents an opportunity for African countries to assess and reframe policies and build new growth pathways, contributing to resource use efficiency, green investment, job creation, and poverty eradication. Africa cannot afford to want to grow today and clean up tomorrow. Distinguished guests, while I'm not have all the solution, please allow me to offer a few suggestions from our experience at the African Development Bank on 4 factors that will be critical for green growth in Africa. First, we need enabling policies and reforms that provide incentives to support private sector investments in green technologies. Africa needs to engage actively in regional and international efforts to develop appropriate regulatory frameworks to strengthen the African carbon market in general and the clean development mechanism in particular. Governments must develop institutional and human resource capacity to support adaptation and promotion of technology transfers, as well as promote climate-smart agriculture. Second, we need to ramp the use of public funds to crowd in private capital to support green growth investments in renewable energy. Sustainable rural infrastructure, biotechnology, etc. Governments should not only focus on mobilizing financing from external sources, but should also explore innovative internal sources. African countries need to enhance their readiness and capacities to gain increasing access and to benefit from emerging financing instruments such as the Green Technology Climate Fund. Third, we need to deepen regional integration and cooperation to enhance access to markets and regional public goods. Many countries, for instance, are setting up regional power pools. The choice of technologies and setting of tariffs will ultimately have implications for countries' transition to green economies. Fourth, we need to support research and development for appropriate technologies to support Africa's green growth. It's well known that Africa lags behind in leapfrogging to new and innovative technologies. Dependence on important and often obsolete technologies will not sustain Africa's drive towards green growth. Ladies and gentlemen, the African Development Bank is at the forefront of actualizing Africa's vision and strategy for green growth. The African Development Bank, having consulted extensively with relevant stakeholders, has developed a 10-year strategy, 2013-2022, and entitled At the Center of Africa's Transformation. The two key objectives of the 10-year strategy are inclusive growth and a transition to green growth, all aimed at improving the quality of growth on the continent. The African Development Bank is implementing this strategy with the aim of enhancing natural resource management, maximizing natural resource use efficiency, and minimizing waste and pollution, and also strengthening resilience of livelihoods and economic sector to exogenous shocks. And finally, promoting sustainable infrastructure. I'm happy to inform you that the African Development Bank has supported some pilot countries at various stages of preparing national green growth strategies or in mainstreaming green growth into their national development planning frameworks. Some of these countries include Sierra Leone, Mozambique, Kenya, Morocco, Rwanda, Madagascar, Zambia, and Cabo Verde. Ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to state that beyond these upstream activities, that African Development Bank is also supporting investment on the ground that contribute to green growth through an array of products covering availing investment financing, as well as technical assistance and advisory work. Some of these green projects include the Green Morocco Plant Support Program to support the implementation of the Green Morocco Plan until 2020, the Kenya Menengai Geothermal Project, the Africa Climate Change Technology Center, that's a regional one, the Cabo Verde Picos and Engenders Catchment Basin Development Project. In Egypt, the bank is at the forefront
excuse me, maybe because of the time constraint, certainly we will appreciate if we can have a copy of the document that will be made available. But I think you have really set the scene in terms of some of the gaps that we have to consider, particularly the areas that you have mentioned, the 4 areas. I would like you maybe to see if you can just conclude so that I can give the opportunity for the 2 colleagues. And then we'll have certainly also the opportunity for the participants to get back to you in terms of clarification or additional information.
Thank you very much. I was to conclude. I mean, you took my time. No, I was just saying that in Egypt we are promoting and supporting public-private partnerships, and we have ongoing a project of 200 megawatt wind farm, public-private, and we are financing both the public and private part of it, in addition to the dialogue that we have with the government on green energy. And let me then conclude by reiterating that Africa has no option but to a more sustainable development pathway, and green growth offers a veritable vehicle to do this. And we stand ready as African Development Bank to support Africa, and in my capacity of resident representative here, to support Egypt in that way. Thank you.
Now look at governance as a critical tool for transition to green economy. Therefore, we are promoting accountability, transparency, the rule of law, and environmental governance as well. Uganda is forging partnerships at various levels, at regional, national, local, and global levels to support our efforts in transition to green economy. And I want to say, Mr. Chairman, that Uganda has also mainstreamed green economy in her national vision, Vision 2040, as well as our national development plan. Now, in terms of challenges, Uganda meets the challenge of ensuring inclusive, equitable growth. Uganda has had very high economic growth rates, but income inequalities are widening. regional inequalities are also widening. So we need to ensure equitable, economic growth. We also experience a very high population growth rate of 3.2% per annum, and Uganda is third in terms of population growth. Now, how do we accommodate this population growth as well as achieving, high levels of economic growth? These are challenges that Uganda has to look at. We also note that transition to a green economy requires adjustment, real reforms, hard decisions to be taken. Therefore, there is a cost of adjustment that Uganda has to undertake. In terms of lessons learned, we'll note that green economy is not new to Uganda. We shall just continue with the efforts that we've had as we move towards the green economy. It requires partnerships at various levels, regional, local, national, sub-regional, and Uganda has got these partnerships. And Mr. Chairman, we have the Green Switch Africa Green Project as one of the partnerships that we have in moving to a green economy. Now, development planning is critical if we are to move to a green economy in Africa, and this should be long-term planning. We need to move away from short-term planning to long-term planning, and planning is discipline. We need the discipline of planning. Now, green economy requires political commitment, high-level political commitment. If you are to go through the structural reforms, the necessary reforms, the resource commitment, and the partnerships, all these require a lot of resource. Therefore, we need to green our politics as well. Mr. Chairman, given the time constraint, I beg to stop here. I thank you very much.
Thank you for this concise intervention and sharing with us the experience of Uganda that will be certainly useful to many other African countries. I would like to turn to NEPAD, and maybe I would request NEPAD to focus on particularly the regional initiatives that are really promoted by the African Union and NEPAD. What are the lessons learned, and how do you think that the African continent can build on these regional initiatives to really support the implementation of the green economy agenda in the continent? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Honorable Minister, thanks so much for the invitation extended to the NEPAD agency, and on behalf of the Chief Executive of the agency, Dr. Ibrahim Mayaki, who is unable to be here, but the Director of Programs for the NEPAD agency, Madam Fortabon, will be here next week to join us for the subsequent meetings. At the NEPAD agency, and by extension the African Union, we are excited with the number of initiatives currently going on the green economy. Suffice to say, this has been an important component of the Agenda 2063 document that has been recently approved. The issue of the green economy has had a very important place in the Agenda 2063. And also following from the African Consensus Statement that was approved by the Africa Union's 18th Summit, which recognized the importance of transitioning to the green economy. African countries, led by the Ministerial Conference on the Environment, has placed green economy as one of the 5 regional flagship programs that are implemented within as Africa's response to the outcomes of Rio +20. And as has been stated already on this table, the issue of the green economy is not something that is new. It requires massive upscaling, both at continental and local levels. And a number of African countries have already taken strategic measures to place green economies as part of their development planning strategies. Mention can be made of the Green Growth and Climate Resilient Policy Program in Rwanda, the Climate Resilient and Green Economy Program in Ethiopia, as well as the New Green Path of South Africa. So there is a lot of momentum on the African continent when it comes to the issue of green economy. And the focus of the African Green Economic Partnership, which is one of the 5 flagship programs approved by the AMCEN, is to support and the number of initiatives that are already going on in the continent. And some of these initiatives include the Green Economy Advisory Services that are being promoted by UNEP. We can also talk about the Green Economy Transitioning Program that has happened in Ghana, Kenya, and Rwanda under the auspices of UNEP, UNDP, and then the UNDESA. So these are activities or programs that are currently going on and which need upscaling. But for upscaling to happen, it's important that at a regional, at a continental level, there's a lot of cohesion, there's a lot of coordination to be able to bring about the intended targets, the intended efforts that we all want to see. So at the NEPAD agency, at the African Union, what we are supporting is to bring about that kind of political leadership to be able to bring together the African countries, the African institutions to be able to support the green economy agenda. And in that regard, we are also pushing critically to support project preparation, particularly to be able to have access to the number of the various funding mechanisms that are available both continentally and globally. So project preparation is one of the key areas that the NEPAD agency, the African Union, is going to go into in the next period. So in a nutshell, Mr. Chair, these are some of the regional interventions that at the African Union, at the NEPAD agency, we are proposing to have in the course of this year and the subsequent years. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, NEPAD. What is clear is we have different experience initiatives at country level, but we need also to find ways at the regional level to catalyze these different initiatives and create some complementarity, synergies, and identified also areas that need maybe to be taken care of at the regional level to complement and support what is happening at country level. But from the different interventions here, it is clear that, in fact, the continent is on the right track, but there are still a number of gaps that we need, in fact, to be aware of if we want to move forward in the right direction. And thanks to all the different panelists, I would like to just stress some of them. This aspect of creating enabling environment in terms of the right policies, the right regulations. I think this is something that needs, in fact, to be improved. The understanding that this initiative is not really only government initiative. It has to be public-private. The business sector should be actively involved to see, in fact, what could be the niche of the business, the private sector. They need, in fact, to ensure that the capacity also at the different level is there. There is a capacity gap, definitely in terms of understanding what green economy is, but also how to transition. Because green economy doesn't mean we can go immediately from where we are to becoming a green economy. In fact, a system in the country. It requires transitioning. What this transitioning requires is something that needs to be clarified, and I hope that during the discussions here, this will be given an opportunity to go a little bit deeper in terms of what are the requirements in terms of conditions that need to be met for transitioning. Because we need, in fact, to understand that there are steps in the process. And then this aspect of regional integration, I think it's right that the continent, I think if you look at the different regions, is unfortunately where we don't have enough really integration on our level. So there is a lot in terms of building on the opportunities for intra and also international trade. the aspect of research and development. I think this is important. Yes, we used to say that there are opportunities for leapfrogging, and this is something that has been mentioned by African Development Bank. But I think we have also to make sure that we invest in research and development. And as you know, our continent is not really doing much in this particular area, and I think this is an important aspect to look at. There are other areas in terms of mainstreaming the green economy into national development. We should not think that green economy initiatives at the country level or regional are really standalone. They should be mainstream into a regional and into national development framework. And this is something being said. And the minister stressed something very important. This is not an agenda for ministers of environment. This is an agenda, in fact, for all the different stakeholders for development, and in particular ministries of finance, economic planning. And I would like to stress that in March last year, and it is important to share this information in this meeting, that ministers of finance and economic planning, not ministers of environment, ministers of finance and economic planning, when they met in March in Abuja last year, they took an important resolution saying that the continent should now engage in greening the key sectors of development. So I think we should use this opportunity as basically most of the players being in environment to reach out to the other stakeholder groups. The aspect of political commitment, I think, is important because it requires really reforms, and this is it is important to see that in Egypt, in Uganda, and other countries, the success, in fact, is mainly due to this political will and political commitment. There are a number of support being provided, but I think I would like to end this with what the colleague from Nepal said. What really we discovered that is, and this is something that needs to be done in terms of improvement, there are so many initiatives. At country level, at the regional level, I think it is time to see how really we can create opportunities for synergies, complementarity between the different initiatives. You have mentioned many of actions, project program going on in the region. We need really to find better ways to create a mechanism that will ensure this adequate partnership, integration, coordination at the country level, sub-regional and regional level. So I would like to just see, based on this, if there are other additions coming from the floor. Please feel free to just raise your hand and provide us with your inputs. Let's see from right. Is there anyone wanting to make a contribution? And then from the left. Financial contribution. Oh yeah, he's there. The minister is asking even financial contribution. Huh? Very welcome. Very welcomed indeed. Yes, Stephen, please.
Thanks very much, Monkaila, and thank you very much for the very interesting presentations, Your Excellency, and the representative from AFDB, from NEPAD, from Uganda. Addis, July 2015, focusing on financing for sustainable development. I'd like to get the perspective of both the representative from AFDB for this important event, how it links also to the SDG agenda, which is universal indicators for sustainability, and Your Excellency, your view on where AMCEN goes in delivering on these important milestones in 2015. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. These are very good questions, and then we'll start with our colleagues from NEPAD and then African Development Bank, and end with the minister. Yes, NEPAD, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that question. I'll speak to the July 2015 conference in Addis. Increasingly, we have come to the realization, well, it's been known already, but increasingly now, we've come to the realization that financing for the green economy is very, very important. And to be able to achieve this, we also need to look within our national budgets, how we are able to use domestic resources to be able to go about achieving the aims of the green economy. That is why the issue of cross-sectoralism has been talked about, so that the issue of the green economy is not seen as just an environmental issue, but it's looked at from the basis of agriculture, from industry, from finance, from all the sectors that make up a country. So it's important that even at the local level, at the national level, there is that discussion, there is that conversation between the ministries, so that we have an allocation of the budgets to green economy based on what the budget says. So it's important that the budget specifically allocates some resources from domestic components to be able to achieve the targets for the green economy. So my point is, we need to look at domestic resources. It's a very important component to be able to achieve the targets that we have set for ourselves under the green economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I fully agree with what my colleague has said, and I think finding innovative financing solutions to fund green economy is very important. And we need to start from the local debt market. We need to start, I mean, a very good example is the mega project of Canal Suez, and how much has been mobilized in 8 days through the certificates, investment certificates by the population. So there is also a way to think how we can use savings local savings to fund the green economy. The second thing is that, of course, it's a cross-cutting issue. It's not the issue of the Ministry of Environment, but it's the country issue. How we would like to see our country in 50 years, how we will give this legacy to our children and grandchildren. And we have done, I mean, when I was in Senegal, I was rep in Senegal for the sub-region. We did what we call a gender-sensitive budgeting. So we have provided budget support to Senegal. So why not doing a green-sensitive budgeting? The African Development Bank provides budget support. The World Bank, all the IFIs provide budget support. So just to add this green-sensitive budgeting in all the budget support that we are providing, and it links to allocating in different ministers the right finance, but not only. It also help to put some key reforms in all these ministries.
Now, we've come to the realization that financing for the green economy is very, very important. And to be able to achieve this, we also need to look within our national budgets, increase culture, from industry, from finance, from all the sectors that make up a country. So it's important that even at the local level, at the national level, there is that discussion, there is that conversation between the ministries, so that we have an allocation of the budgets to green economy based on what the budget says. So it's important that the budget specifically allocates some resources from domestic components to be able to achieve the targets for the green economy. So my point is, we need to look at domestic resources. It's a very important component to be able to achieve the targets that we have set for ourselves under the green economy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I fully agree with what my colleague has said, and I think finding innovative financing solutions to fund green economy is very important. And we need to start from the local debt market. We need to start, I mean, a very good example is the mega project of Canal Suez, and how much has been mobilized in 8 days through the certificates, investment certificates by the population. So there is also a way to think how we can use savings to local savings to fund the green economy. The second thing is that, of course, it's a cross-cutting issue. It's not the issue of the Ministry of Environment, but it's the country issue. How we would like to see our country in 50 years, how we will give this legacy to our children and grandchildren. And we have done, I mean, when I was in Senegal, I was rep in Senegal for the sub-region. We did what we call a gender-sensitive budgeting. So we have provided budget support to Senegal. So why not doing a green-sensitive budgeting? The African Development Bank provides budget support. The World Bank, all the IFIs provide budget support. So just to add this green-sensitive budgeting in all the budget support that we are providing, and it links to allocating in different ministers the right finance, but not only. It also help to put some key reforms in all these ministries to enable them to move with the green economy agenda. And finally, it's important, and now, I mean, it's well known that the public sector cannot finance all the development. So all the countries and African countries, they have to rethink the way they finance their development, and private sector is a key player in that regard. And hence what we have talked about in enabling environment and capacity and research, etc. Thank you.
Thank you much, African Development Bank, Excellency now.
Thank you very much. I'll use the opportunity that I am not yet the president of AMCEN, and I can talk freely. But once I'm the president of the AMCEN, I'll investigate and review all what I have said. That's normal. Okay. So, yes, we do need innovative ideas on financing mechanism. Okay. Financing mechanism is the core. Let us put it this way. And I do believe, I agree with Nepad, that we have to look internal, but not only internal. Let's not forget that. That's not only internal. Internal is a very important sources, but private sector is another one. And third, cooperation with the other countries. I was really thinking of a green economy bank, the African bank or fund. I was really thinking of how we can establish this. We can work under the African American. We're not going to duplicate your work, but we can work under you. No problem. And so we can maybe think of that and think of how we can mobilize resources. Okay, so, think of the possibility that the biomass in Africa and the relation to energy. Think of this as a resource for funding. Think of an African polluters pay principle. We have mega projects. We have projects that cross-cutting nations where we can think of how. But financial is important. Streamlining is another thing. And I do believe that we should foster the ideas where the economic planning minister and the finance minister lead the greening of the economy. And we support. We provide the environmental technical assistance as environment minister. But they lead. And this is what we're trying to do in Egypt, and we have reached a very positive understanding with the Ministry of Planning, and accordingly we will produce a new institutional setup for the green economy that's based that Minister of Investment, of Economic Planning, of Finance, they are the one that are mainly in charge of greening the economy, and the environmental ministers and agencies would provide support to that. I think it can work out better this way. These are two major things. Another way is, how do we get the poor involved? What are the ways to get the poor involved? We're not greening the economy only for environmental purposes, but we are greening the economy for equity and for social equity. How would we get the powers of the poor? How can we get them? Sorry for having the examples only from Egypt, but I am depending on you to educate me and other experience from Africa. But we are thinking Egypt when we are giving land for reclamation. We don't give land. We give shares in companies, big companies, so that the poor are having a share in the company, and they are offered the jobs. So then the success of the company is essential for them in keeping their jobs and keeping their income, and in addition to that, they will make a profit on their shares. We can think of banks for the poor that can finance this. But without getting the poor involved, without getting the decision makers, especially the ones that are dealing with economic issue involved, and without having proper financial mechanism, I see it's going to be difficult to green the economy. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to end with this note of wisdom and clear guidance in terms of really the way forward when it comes to our green economy agenda in Africa. I would like just to, I see one lady is asking, and you see what ladies want, even God gives it. So, so I have to make sure that it happens. And we can also have, as you said on the back, a very good gender balance, not only men talking. So you have the floor, please, before I close.
Morning, everybody. I'm Juliette Likogo from Gabon, representing the Minister of Economics and Planning. I would like to give one contribution regarding private sector. Why don't we talk about green private investment? Because we have seen that in past few years, private investors have been taking place in Africa. So we think that the government, African government, should think about which kind of policy they have to put in place to make sure that private sector has to play a big role in green economy. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is an important point that needs to be taken into account. Indeed, this is a continent that will invest hugely, particularly when it comes to infrastructure for the development, and this is the area of focus of the continent. It will be good to think about the greening investment in the continent, indeed. I think this is an important point. Thank you. And thank again to the Minister and all the panelists. Thank to you, all the participants. I would like just to end by saying that we have a very good contribution in terms of understanding where we are heading, what are the gaps that we have to consider, and certainly during the next session we will go a little bit deeper into what we can learn from our activities so far, but most importantly how we can plan forward. I would like just to remind you, excuse me, really, the outcomes of these discussions will be useful for the ministerial segment, because decisions, declaration will come, but beyond that, decision will be taken in terms of major areas of investment in the continent. Secondly, Stephen mentioned financing for development. Please, there are very important milestones with 2015, which is the end of the MDGs. Where we are going to start with a new way of doing development in the world in terms of this post-2015. So we have this issue of what kind of greening our development we have to consider. So your recommendations and guidance will be useful, particularly on the financing for development. Green economy will play an important role. Please keep in mind, indeed, this July meeting coming in Addis, and I think if need be, some additional information can be provided to the participants, particularly from our colleagues from AU and NEPAD. But also, I think even on this important milestone of climate change, we are discussing in a very difficult way, in fact, what could be the new climate change regime in the next COP coming in Paris. I think green economy has an important role to play, not only on the mitigation side, but also even on the adaptation side. So have all this in mind, and thank you very much for your contribution. And so far, the session has been very productive and fruitful. Thank you much, and a round of applause to all the panelists, please. Just one announcement, please, before we break out. I don't know. Yes, Joy.
Thank you very much. I think that we had some delay in this morning, so we would start the next session at 11 o'clock, so you would actually have 15 minutes of tea break. And I would appreciate for the next session moderator and the speakers to come before the session starts, 5 minutes before 11, so that we can actually start the presentation preparation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was in IPCC. It's good to see the PEI family here.
Okay, we'll be giving you
في بلح بس